Welcome to Insidious Inc., where the night is long, the shadows are deep, and the stories stay with you long after the lights go out. Tonight's story will make you think twice about working the night shift, about the empty hallways, the flickering lights, and the feeling that maybe, just maybe, you're not as alone as you think. Because sometimes the quiet isn't comforting. Sometimes it's watching you. So lock the doors, keep your back to the wall, and listen closely. You might hear something you weren't meant to. Let's begin. It started like any other night shift. I worked as a security at a small, quiet office building. It wasn't the kind of place you'd expect anything creepy to happen. Just a few floors, empty hallways, and a handful of overnight employees. My job was simple: patrol the floors, check the cameras, and make sure everything was locked up. I had done this 100 times before, but that night, something was different. It started around 2:30 a.m. I was making my usual rounds, the steady rhythm of my footsteps the only sound in the empty corridors. The building always felt colder at night, the air still and unmoving. The fluorescent lights above hummed softly, casting their sterile glow on the walls. Everything was normal. Until I heard a voice. Coming from the end of the hallway. I stopped mid-step, my breath catching in my throat. At first, I thought I imagined it. The sound was so faint, barely more than a whisper. But as I stood there, straining to listen, I heard it again. It wasn't the hum of the air conditioning. It wasn't the creak of the old pipes. It was words. But they were wrong. The voice was stretched, drawn out, the words blending together in a slow, slurred murmur. It was like hearing someone talk underwater, their speech distorted and warped in a way that made my skin crawl. A chill ran down my spine. Someone was talking, but there wasn't supposed to be anyone here. I turned my head toward the sound, my pulse quickening. The voice was coming from the supply closet. I swallowed hard. That door was supposed to be locked. Slowly, I stepped forward, my fingers tightening around the flashlight at my side. The closer I got, the stranger the voice became. The words weren't making sense. It was just a jumble of syllables, whispered too fast and too slow at the same time, like a recording being played at the wrong speed. My stomach twisted. Someone was inside. Or something. I stopped just outside the door, my hand hovering inches from the doorknob. The metal looked dull under the fluorescent light. A thin layer of dust settled around its base. It hadn't been touched in a while, and yet the voice was coming from behind it. Then silence filled the hallway. The whispering stopped abruptly, leaving an eerie stillness in its place. A deep, unsettling quiet settled over everything, making my skin prickle with unease. The air felt heavier, pressing down on my chest like an unseen force. The building had always been quiet at night, but this was different. This wasn't just silence. Then suddenly, a thump echoed from inside the closet. Something had hit the door. I stumbled back, a sharp breath escaping my lips as my heart began to race. I fumbled for my radio with shaking fingers, my heart pounding against my ribs. Again, louder this time. It wasn't a normal knock. It wasn't cautious or hesitant. It was forceful, desperate, like something wanted out. I turned on my heel and hurried back to the security office, locking the door behind me with trembling hands. I barely had time to catch my breath before I was at the desk, pulling up the security cameras. My fingers moved quickly over the keyboard, bringing up the live feed from the hallway. The supply closet door filled the screen. It was closed. The hallway was empty. I exhaled slowly, rubbing the back of my neck. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. Then suddenly the screen flickered. For less than a second, the feed cuts to black. When it came back, the closet door was wide open, and the hallway was still empty. My stomach twisted in knots. I rewound the footage frame by frame, my eyes scanning every detail. The door hadn't opened normally. It hadn't creaked or swung outward like it should have. It had snapped open instantly, like something had forced it from the inside. My skin crawled. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't a trick of the light. Something was in that closet, and now it was out. Then, at 3:13 a.m., another alert came through. Motion detected. The camera feed switched to the stairwell. I leaned in, watching closely. The stairwell was empty. The motion detector must have glitched. But then, just as I was about to turn away, a shadow moved. It didn't walk, but appeared. 1 second the stairwell was empty, then the next thing, a tall, dark figure was standing on the bottom step. No features, no face, just a shape, darker than the shadows around it. I blinked, my skin crawling, but before I could react, the feed was cut out. Every single camera went black. A sharp knock hit my door, not from the hallway, but from inside the security office right behind me. I turned, but the room was empty. The only door was the one I had locked myself. But when I looked back at the monitors, one camera was still working, the one in the hallway outside the security office, and on the screen, I saw it. A figure standing just outside my door, not moving, not knocking anymore, just waiting. I couldn't breathe. The door handle turned. I grabbed my flashlight, gripping it so tight my knuckles turned white. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body was frozen. The handle rattled again, and then a whisper, right against the door. "Come out." I squeezed my eyes shut. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Maybe minutes, maybe hours, but eventually the handle stopped moving. When I looked at the monitor again, the figure was gone. The hallway was empty. I wanted to believe it was over, that whatever it was had left. But the air felt wrong and heavy, like it was still there, somewhere, watching me. Then, without warning, my radio crackled to life. A low static-filled whisper seeped through the speaker, distorted and stretched, almost inhuman. My hands trembled as a cold shiver ran down my spine. I dropped the radio immediately. At that exact moment, my phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. "Turn around." I couldn't. I wouldn't. The room had turned ice. My breath was visible in the dim light. Slowly, I looked at the monitors. Every camera was back online. Every hallway, every stairwell, all clear. Except one, the security office. The feed showed my own room, where I sat, frozen. And standing behind me was a figure. It was tall, black, and featureless. So close it could reach out and touch me. I bolted the office door, but was yanked open before I even reached it. Like something had thrown it wide. I ran. Every door I passed, once locked, stood open now, like something was letting me go, or letting something else out. I didn't stop until I reached my car. My hands shook as I fumbled the keys into the ignition. The engine roared to life, and then a fresh handprint on my window, pressed against the glass. But the lot was empty. I floored it, speeding away without looking back. By morning, I had quit. No explanation, no excuses. Just walked away. But sometimes when I'm alone at night, I still hear that whisper. "Come out." And I wonder, what would have happened if I had? If you ever find yourself working the night shift, just remember that the quietest places often the most dangerous. The dark hallways, the locked doors, the empty rooms, because sometimes the night isn't empty, and you're not alone. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, so you don't miss the next terrifying tale. And if you have a true horror story of your own, send it in. I'd love to feature it in a future video. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe out there.